In the Kansas City and St. Louis area, local politicians put laws in place that required landlords to accept Section 8 tenants. Now the state of Missouri, they've decided that, hey, we don't want local authorities to be able to force this legislation onto landlords, and it should be a voluntary program. So they passed a law saying you don't have to do it. And the governor just signed the bill. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting update to a story that I did a little while back about this proposed law in the state of Missouri that makes it so that landlords don't have to accept Section 8 tenants, okay? Just basically, the state of Missouri is going back to the way things were before. Before a couple of very left-leaning anti-landlord places decided to pass laws that required landlords to take these tenants. So, you know what? The Section 8 program in the program's definition says that it's a voluntary program, yet people are coming out and saying, oh, no, landlords have to accept these tenants. They can't turn down tenants with vouchers. This is what they call source of income discrimination. Now, obviously, I don't believe that a Section 8 voucher is income. If it was income, wouldn't you have to pay taxes on it? Okay, I have to pay income taxes on all the income that I earn, but I haven't heard a single story anywhere ever that said that a Section 8 tenant has to pay taxes on their Section 8 voucher. No. It's an entitlement. It's not an income. And so their whole premise is flawed. And, the requirement to make landlords accept these tenants they don't want, well, it's flawed as well. So I used to invest in Missouri. In fact, I just sold all of my properties in Missouri back last year in 2024. And the reason that I sold those properties was because I was losing a lot of money off of them, okay? It didn't have anything to do with this law or laws like it. Missouri overall is a very landlord-friendly state, and the taxes are relatively low, and I had no issues other than the fact that inflation was kicking my butt. However, I was worried that this sort of law might pass. Now, Kansas City is in Jackson County, Missouri, which is the same county where I own my properties, my properties were in Independence, Missouri, which is right next to Kansas City. So you can understand why, I'm glad that they passed these laws. Now, since I don't own those properties anymore, not a big issue, but I've seen laws similar to this being passed here in Nebraska, where I live. Okay, I believe Lincoln, Nebraska passed a similar law requiring landlords to accept tenants with vouchers. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. So first of all, do you believe that landlords should be forced to accept these vouchers? Okay, do you think we should have to take Section 8 tenants? The second thing is that do you believe that the state of Missouri made the right decision in basically saying that, hey, these local jurisdictions shouldn't be allowed to set their landlord-tenant law and that it should come from the state? Put a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think, and let's get into the article, okay? This article is coming from the MissouriIndependent.com, and it says, Bill overturning protections for Section 8 renters signed by the Missouri governor. Let's get into it. Local laws prohibiting landlords from discriminating against tenants who receive public assistance are unenforceable under legislation signed Monday by Governor Mike Kehoe. The legislation takes aim at ordinances passed in several Missouri cities to protect tenants from discrimination based on the source of their income, especially tenants who use federal housing choice vouchers, known as Section 8 vouchers, to pay rent. So, like I said, a Section 8 voucher is not a source of income. I would actually agree with them if it was like saying, okay, this person has child support payment, right, from their ex-spouse, and they're receiving this child support payment in the form of cash that is being deposited into their account once a month, right? I might actually agree with that. Now, I don't know how child support is taxed, if it is taxed at all, I mean, by the recipient, but that actually is money that is deposited into the account. That's why I kind of agree with it more. Now, if you say, oh, we're not going to accept you because, we're not going to take your child support as a source of income, but This law is not about child support. It's not about child support. It's not about veterans benefits. It's not about disability payments. And we all know this, okay? It's about Section 8 and nothing else. And the other groups all combined might make up 1% of the people who are, who actually would need this sort of protection. But I've never heard of landlords discriminating against those other groups. I've never heard of that, okay? The one group that I have heard them discriminating against is the Section 8 tenants. And I don't like Section 8 tenants. And I was a Section 8 landlord, okay? Because of the issues with the program itself and with the tenants. So, like I said, if you're a landlord, you want to take these tenants, go ahead. But we should not be forced to do that, okay? We should not be forced to. And at least in the state of Missouri, they won't be forced to. The bill was co-sponsored by State Representatives Chris Brown, a Republican from Kansas City, and Ben Keithley, a Republican from Chesterfield. In the Senate, it was carried by State Senator Nick Schroer, a Republican from Defiance. Kansas City passed a source of income discrimination ban last year, though it was in large part paused by the courts in February. Columbia, St. Louis, Webster Groves, and Clayton have similar protections on the books. The laws make it illegal for landlords to discriminate based solely on the fact of renters' lawful sources of income, including Section 8, veterans benefits, and Social Security. Yeah, like I said, veterans benefits and Social Security, you really think, some landlords are like, oh no, I'm not going to take these veterans benefits. Never heard of that once in my entire life, okay? Never read a story about it. Never talked to any other landlord who's ever said, yeah, I don't take veterans benefits. What a joke, okay? It's a lie. It's made to garner sympathy for this cause, which in turn really is only about Section 8, okay? The legislation had the support of landlord groups, apartment associations, the Realtors Association, and the conservative think tank Show Me Institute. Proponents characterized locality source of income protections as an overreach into property owners' rights. Opponents said the bill infringed on local control and would hurt affordable housing availability, exacerbating homelessness. The city of Kansas City has been opposed along with the anti-poverty nonprofit Empower Missouri and an association of public housing authorities in Missouri. Of course, they're going to oppose this, right? Because this was part of their whole political agenda in order to get reelected. These politicians, they pushed this garbage, and if they had no clue what the effect on affordable housing actually would be, because it won't have any effect. It would have zero effect because landlords, right? And this is what I've mentioned before. Landlords aren't stupid. They know that they can't reject people for that because they will get sued or fined or whatever, right? And instead, they're going to find other ways to reject tenants with these vouchers. Or they might not tell you at all. I don't think that you have to tell a tenant anything about why they were rejected. Okay? You could take their application just like anybody else and just not take them as a tenant. What are they going to do? Absolutely nothing. They wouldn't be able to prove that you rejected them because they're a Section 8 tenant, and you wouldn't be in any trouble at all. But anyway, I go on a rant. I've talked about this issue a lot. I agree with this law in the state of Missouri. I do believe that we need to pass the same law here in Nebraska because I see the writing on the wall. If in Lincoln, Nebraska, they've already passed one of these source of income discrimination laws, I could imagine the same thing happening in Omaha. Okay, and more than half of my properties are in Omaha, so that'd be a big problem for me. Anyway, let me know what you think. Put a comment in the comment section down below.